Rita, let me start with you because of everybody on this stage, I feel like this kind of began with you. You were a fan of Frederick Bachman's book. I'm curious to know how you found it.
Well, it was actually because it was the movie first, and it came to us in a DVD, not a CD, as I said the other night. And it was in one of those folding packs that we used to get when we would get DVDs, and it was in the foreign film section, and along with documentaries and live actions or whatever. And I read the little synopsis, and I thought, this sounds interesting. And so we put it on. I said, let's watch this movie. And we put it on, and 10 minutes in, I looked over at Tom and I was like, we got to make this movie and you got to play this because it's so amazing. It's like, but the truth of it was that we had been talking about comedy, and I had said to Tom, like, why don't you do more comedies? I mean, you used to do so many, you got your start in comedy, and he really said it's just so much harder to find comedies that are really about something, that are grounded in kind of a real way. And I really felt like that this would be that movie, so that was the inspiration. And then I read the book.
Oh, okay. So, Tom, I was looking back and I was like, what is the last kind of full-fledged comedy you've done? I was thinking maybe Larry Crown, if that qualifies.
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah,
that's a decade ago.
Well, the nature of everybody knows the nature of comedies have become essentially kids in high school. I down at the office we call it up. Oh, another comedy about how do I get laid? And after a while, the concept of a comedy that you sell as a comedy has to be a number of things, because it seems that marketing people say we'll have to sell it as a comedy. I take a degree of pride in that. I've made a lot of movies that are comedies that are also about some very specific things that are recognizable, as opposed to a caper or an adventure or what have you. And I would say Larry Crown was one of them. That Thing You Do was a comedy. Nothing in Common was a comedy.
All the Nora movies.
All the Nora Ephron movies that are all much more about community and a piece of. I mean, certainly, Nora's thing. I'll tell you this story. When we made You've Got Mail. She said, you need to read this as soon as possible, and I did. And I said, well, this is kind of amazing, because this is really about this thing that's going on right now, and it's kind of like a sequel to Sleepless in Seattle, but it's not. So we'll just keep this in our pocket, and made a whole brand new movie. She said, yes, we should. We will make it, but we have to hurry up because email will be going away to some other technology very quickly. So Nora even knew that. So, but A Man Called Ova, which we saw, and I think definitely what Dave and Marc did with A Man Called Otto, it is very funny, but it's not kooky or silly. It is extremely recognizable as the type of funny things that we witness in our real lives every day. And that brand of comedy, I think, is all. It ends up being somehow about the community. How there's stuff that happens that just brings us joy. At the same, right up against the stuff that happens and brings us sadness.
Marc, what I find really interesting, we did a chat the other night, and what I'm about to say didn't occur to me because I wasn't thinking hard enough. Here you are, a European director doing a U.S. remake of a European film.
Yes, I mean, also probably, they thought I'm Swiss. How funny can he be? But
that's not true, because we saw Stranger Than Fiction.
Yes, no, and obviously David and I did Finding Neverland together, and I think that there's some humor in there and some emotion. So, but I felt this collaboration, working together again, and then working with Rita and Tom and Tom and the ensemble cast was very special, because ultimately it's about community. It's a life-affirming film, and ends with hope, which is it's life of humanity, which is so important, I think, for me, that, and especially these days, to keep installing hope. And it feels that the film was really grounded, and life is the yin and the yang. It's the dark and the light. It's funny and sad. So I think we all tried to make the same movie, and it was a very, very, the collaboration was very in sync.
Absolutely. David, I'd be curious to know, on one hand, I was thinking if you're going to write a screenplay that's based on, obviously you were also sourcing the book, as I'm sure as much as you were the Swedish film. But on one hand, I thought it must be so interesting to write a screenplay based on something that there's already been a screenplay written for, because you have the act structure there, but that also must make you feel like you want to do your own thing. So what were the particular challenges on this one, given the fact that it had been a film before?
Well, I had the luxury of stealing the good bits from the original film, and then there were certain things that I knew I had to translate over into an American landscape and political system and legal system. A lot of the Swedish film had to do with socialized medicine, and that's how they were able to move the neighbors out and force them in and out of different housing. So we had to rethink that. But that's all just kind of like solving technical problems. Really, for me, it was about characters that I already recognized from, I grew up in the Midwest in Michigan, and for me, this was that character, that it was my dad, of an era where you didn't talk about your feelings, and if you were in pain or you were suffering, you didn't share. You just said, I'm doing okay, I'm fine. Yeah. You know, but then it would leak out in other ways, and you would find that, you know, even the best intentioned person saying I'm fine would start getting grumpy about the most trivial thing, and you'd think, what are you so sad about, and what are you so angry about? And really it was just discovering ways to find your way into that person's psyche and go, oh, that's not the problem, this is the problem. And so I was all on board from the moment I saw the film. And then, you know, talking to Rita and Marc, it just made perfect sense to me.
Dave wrote the funniest line in the movie, which is spoken by an 8-year-old little girl. He says, oh, that's the goddamn stupid dishwasher, useless dishwasher.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's the American touch right there.
That made it American instantly. Yeah.
I do want to say that what I thought was so extraordinary is that Dave's first draft, when it came in, we were gobsmacked because it was so perfect. And I said, we were like, this just never happens. This just never happens. You expect that you're going to get there and then eventually you'll, you know, work on it. And we did work on it, but what was there in that first draft was perfect.
Can we say, though, what was missing was Hurricane Marisol? This is what we needed.
I mean,
we need Tropical Storm Marisol.
Absolutely.
Yes.
don't we all fall in love with not only Marisol, but also Mariana? Yes, we do. I would love to know, I'm asking in innocence, I don't know if this was an offer, if you had to audition. How did this become a reality for you? How did you find out about this film, and what got you excited about it?
Well, I did this audition in a hotel room, you know, holding my iPhone and not knowing. I loved the scenes when I received them, and I loved exactly that one was a comedy and one was emotionally challenging. And I just loved that. And I tried to be honest, and I tried to use what I had, you know, the pots that I had in my kitchen, and I just threw it out. I loved it, and I threw it out, and I would never imagine that. Well,
she actually wanted to get the audition back because she thought it wasn't the right one. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen. Yeah. It's literally Mariana and an iPhone in a hotel room. And she's talking to herself and her invisible husband and invisible Otto, and she
created the whole world.
It's
right. It was unbelievable. We couldn't believe it when we saw it. We're like,
Rita, I was sitting at home and Rita watched it like 5 times without my knowledge. And then she came into the room where I was, and she said, "You have to see this." And I said, what is it? Well, it's on my iPad. You really have to see this. And I did, and cut 2.
And the crazy thing was when Francine Maisler, who the casting director, said to me, you should check out this Mexican actress, Mariana Trevino. And so I opened my computer. It was the beginning of casting, and there was only her audition. I said, well, one actress, what are you talking about? And I said, just watch her. And I'm watching, I said, yeah, I don't think we need to see anybody else.
yeah.
As a music freak, I'm just so excited to share a stage with Thomas Newman, who I'm just such a gargantuan fan of. I'd be curious to know, what were the conversations that you had with Mr. Marc Forster about what you were going to add to this beautiful film.
What were our conversations? I don't even remember. We just kind of started in, I think, really. You know, you just start and you have some successes, some failures, and you just keep going, right? Does that...
we did just finish a film before that, which called Whitebird, which is coming out next year. So we finished that, and I said, Tom, I really would love to collaborate with it and mention it to Rita and Tom. And they said, oh, we know Tom. We were in a carpool together. So
Our kids were in carpool together, so we would take turns driving carpool.
What are the odds, right?
So
That was Truman Hanks that was in that carpool, by the way.
and then Tom, for the opening credits, he suddenly started. He wrote a piece of music for that, and he said, "I have this other idea," and he started this with this little bit of a spaghetti western tune suddenly, and I said, this is brilliant. This is a spaghetti western in this, and it's like suddenly I felt that was the right tone for Otto, because
yeah, it was kind of the noose. I think the noose was a kind of gave that idea a bit. Yeah, but the idea did come late, and you know, as I said the other night, a lot of times the best ideas are the ones that come in last.
Tom, I want to end with a question for you, because I feel like this whole concept of not in my backyard is something that's been part of the American experience, for better or worse, for decades. But did you marvel at this film's kind of increasing relevance over the last 9 or so months?
Oh dear, funny. Yeah, I must say I think we might have been. Look, at the end, you can't make an altruistic movie. I mean, you can't say, oh, we're going to send out a message on this. I think that what we all saw, certainly in the original, what we talked about again and again and again and again, was the undeniable truth that everybody can experience it if they're open to it, and that's the power of community. And I think the beauty of it all really does stem from these noisy Mexican family that is moving across the street. And on one hand, if you were going to pay to the cynicism that seems to be the default position of an awful lot of media or attention, would say, well, there goes the neighborhood. But the reality of people learning to look out for one another, what better neighborhood could anybody live in than one in which everybody can knock on the neighbor's door and say either I need help with something, or ask the question, do you need help with something? It's undeniable. And look, I don't want to become Johnny America here, but this is what I have witnessed in my 66 years as an American, that's what people actually do. It's more glamorous, and I think it's easy to celebrate and capture and go over and over again to the conflicts and the outrage that can go on. But in fact, if you live on a block, you want to have neighbors like Marisol and Tommy. You really do.
Marc and Tom and Rita and Mariana, Dave,
Thank you,
Tom,
Dave.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.